5:11 a.m. local time. The first tone slices through the cockpit before either pilot speaks. Sharp, electronic, unmistakably wrong. The AH-64 Apache is already running low over the Strait of Hormuz, skimming above the dark blue water with the kind of precision that leaves no room for error. The sea below is calm enough to catch the pale, early light. Cargo ships move through the narrow channel like floating walls. Heat haze hangs just above the surface. Straight ahead, the horizon looks clear. To the left, only distance. To the right, the edge of trouble. Then a second alert sounds. Captain Reeves never takes his eyes off the flight path. His gloved hands stay steady on the controls as the helicopter holds its low, fast line over the water. Beside him, Chief Warrant Officer Mercer drops his gaze to the sensor display and locks up for half a beat. Fast airborne contact. He widens the feed. Then another appears. And another. 4 in total. The cockpit does not get louder. It gets tighter. The Apache's twin engines maintain a hard, even growl as the aircraft pushes forward, rotor disc chopping through the humid air with raw mechanical force. The helicopter is set up for armed overwatch, not a clean aerial duel over open water. The nose sensor searches. The chain gun hangs ready under the fuselage. Hellfires rest silent on the stubs. But the targets closing in now are small, low, and moving with far too much intent to dismiss. Mercer tracks the lead object as it races in from the northeast, barely above the surface. Too fast for a civilian drone, too steady for random traffic, too deliberate to be clutter. Another contact sits higher behind it, almost as if guiding the approach. The other two break wider, stretching outward before curving back toward the Apache's path. Not a loose formation, a setup. 4 drones, Mercer says, his voice flat. Possible armed configuration. Reeves banks 2 degrees left, just enough to disrupt the geometry without giving away too much speed. He keeps the nose down. Climbing would silhouette the helicopter against the brightening sky. Staying low buries it in the visual noise of the water, but it also crushes every second into a smaller space. No room to drift, no room to hover, no room to hesitate. The strait suddenly feels much narrower. Below them, a merchant ship pushes through the channel, its wake trailing white behind it. Farther ahead off the port side, another vessel moves slow and massive, turning the waterway into a corridor of steel. The Apache is now boxed in by sea traffic, confined airspace, and 4 incoming drones closing fast enough to end everything in an instant. Mercer slews the sensor again. The lead drone flashes across the screen. Dark body, fixed wings, clean profile, no ambiguity. Confirmed hostile. After that, neither man wastes a word. The first drone charges in low and fast from the right front quarter. Reeves snaps the Apache down and left, rotor tips biting hard as the helicopter drops even closer to the sea. Spray kicks up beneath them, warning tones pulse again. Mercer keeps trying to hold the target in the sensor box, but the drone is tiny and the background is all glare and motion. Right side, closing. Reeves jerks the aircraft level, then drives it harder left. The move is violent but controlled, sharpened by training and instinct. The drone flashes across the nose at terrifying speed, close enough for both men to see it with their own eyes. No longer just a symbol on a screen, but a real machine with a deadly purpose. It misses by seconds. Barely. Mercer swings the gun. The Apache's M230 chain gun hammers out a short, brutal burst, recoil shuddering through the frame. Traces tear across the space where the drone had been, but the target is already past them, slipping behind the helicopter and vanishing. Lost one. Tracking too high. Then another contact starts to climb. That one bothers Mercer more. The higher drone is not rushing in to strike. It is watching, adjusting, feeding cleaner angles to the others. The remaining pair spread even wider now, forcing the crew to choose what to follow and what to risk. Reeves reaches for the flare dispense and punches it once. Flares burst from the helicopter and drop behind in burning arcs, bright against the dim morning air. There is still no clean missile tone, no certainty about exactly what the drones are carrying. But at this altitude and at this speed, certainty is already gone. The helicopter surges ahead. Mercer catches the third drone for half a second as it sweeps in from the left, low and fast, skimming so close to the water that its shadow flickers across the chop. The fourth remains farther back, high enough to guide, patient enough to wait. The pattern is coordinated. This is not harassment, not a warning pass. It is a direct attempt to bring the Apache down. The lead drone circles wide for another run. The second angles inward from above. Mercer's display fills with crossing lines, threat cues, unstable returns. Reeves keeps the aircraft low, threading every movement through the smallest possible gap between ships, sea, and sky. The Apache is still flying, still armed, still in the fight. But now the enemy has rhythm. Mercer zooms in again on the nearest target. This time the image holds just long enough. He catches the shape of a payload beneath the fuselage. He sees the hard point. He sees enough. Armed drone, no question. Reeves says nothing. He rolls the Apache into a harder bank as the first true attack run begins. Ahead, the Strait of Hormuz tightens into a corridor of steel and light. Behind them, 4 drones close in. And over the water at 5:11 in the morning, the fight truly begins. 5:13 a.m. local time. The first attack run does not end when the drone misses, it resets. And that is what makes it so dangerous. The AH-64 Apache is still racing low over the Strait of Hormuz. Engines pulling hard, rotor wash shredding the morning air into a violent blur above the water. Captain Reeves keeps the aircraft just high enough to stay clear of the surface, just low enough to deny the drones a clean silhouette. Every correction is minimal. Every second matters. There is no altitude to trade, no safe direction to climb, and no room for even one mistake in a channel this tight. Beyond the cockpit glass, the sea is no longer scenery, it is a boundary. Chief Warrant Officer Mercer drags the sensor across the sky and catches the nearest contact reappearing off the right rear quarter. The drone that overshot them has already turned around. It is not withdrawing, it is setting up for another pass. Right rear, low, fast! Before Reeves can answer, Mercer spots the second drone dropping from above. High contact coming down. A 2-axis attack. That changes everything. One drone stays low, forcing the helicopter to brake sideways. One comes high, forcing the crew to guard against a steep descent from above. The other 2 remain farther out, holding enough distance either to close in or keep shaping the geometry. This is not a reckless rush. Whoever launched these drones built the attack to split the Apache's attention and shrink its reaction window. Over land, Reeves might have used hills, structures, or terrain to break the pattern. Out here, over open water, the only cover is movement. The first drone comes in from starboard, skimming so low its outline flickers against the glare rolling off the sea. Reeves rolls left, then snaps level just as the second contact dives from high off the port side. The helicopter lurches hard enough to send vibration through the entire frame. Alarm tones pulse in quick succession. Mercer loses both tracks for half a breath, reacquires the high contact, then throws the turret back to the lower one. Take the low one, Reeves says. Mercer is already on it. The M230 erupts again in a short, controlled burst. 30mm rounds rip across open air, then begin walking closer. The drone jerks sideways, not randomly but with intent. It slips the burst by only a few feet and keeps coming with chilling discipline. Reeves dumps the nose and banks again. The Apache drops even closer to the water than either man wants, so low that rotor wash smears the surface into ragged white patterns. A tanker farther ahead fills part of the forward view, turning the channel into a narrowing cage. The drone streaks past the helicopter's right side, missing again, but only after forcing the Apache lower and farther off its preferred line. The second drone uses that opening instantly. It plunges from above on the left, steep and fast, trying to hit while Reeves is still recovering from the first break. Mercer catches it late, snaps the gun upward, and fires another burst. This time the tracers connect. The drone bucks. One wing tears away. For a split second, it keeps flying on momentum alone, body twisting wildly before it cartwheels into the water and erupts in a hard white-orange flash just off the Apache's tail. One down. Mercer does not sound relieved. He sounds busy, because 3 drones remain, and now they know the helicopter can fight back. The surviving drones do not scatter. They adjust. One climbs higher, staying outside the immediate gun window. Another slides wide to the left, nearly disappearing into the haze above the sea. The third comes straight in from behind, low and aggressive, as if willing to trade itself just to get close enough. Lost visual on left contact. Mercer keeps scanning. Reeves stays on the controls, holding the aircraft together inside a shrinking box of steel, glare, spray, and speed. The fight is no longer a sudden encounter. It is a running contest of reactions, angles, and timing. Every pass reveals more discipline. Every near miss proves the threat is learning. The Apache remains low over the channel, engines driving, gun ready, crew locked in. Merchant ships still crawl through the strait like moving barriers. The sky continues to brighten, and somewhere inside that tightening corridor, the next attack is already forming. Reeves throws the Apache into a tight turn, the kind that feels manageable in open sky, but brutal this close to the water. The aircraft shudders as the blades bite hard into the air. On the sensor feed, Mercer spots the drone on their tail. Small, dark, steady, growing far too fast. No missile warning. No clean signal spelling out exactly what kind of threat they are facing. That uncertainty may be the worst part. It forces them to prepare for every possibility at once. Reeves triggers flares again. Bright fire spills behind the helicopter in staggered lines, dropping toward the sea. The drone does not peel away. It keeps closing. Mercer holds for a fraction longer than instinct would like, letting the target swell inside the sight picture. Then he opens fire. The chain gun kicks in controlled bursts. Water erupts behind the drone. A stream of rounds passes just over it. Then one burst lands close enough to upset its balance. The target wobbles but stays airborne. The Apache lunges ahead, threading a narrow path between its own disturbed air and the merchant traffic looming farther down the channel. Reeves cannot simply outrun the drones. All he can do is distort the angles, deny them a clean approach, and buy a few more seconds. Mercer slews the sensor left. The contact he lost is back. It is charging in low from port, nearly in sync with the damaged drone still pressing from behind. The attack has reformed into a pincer, one closing from the rear, one slicing in from the side, one more above, holding position and waiting. The cockpit feels tighter by the second. Reeves yanks the helicopter right, trying to spoil the side attacker's lead. Mercer fires left across the nose, the round streaking so close to the canopy line that the sound becomes a metallic roar. The low drone cuts through the burst too fast to confirm a hit and vanishes beneath the field of view. Then something detonates off the Apache's aft quarter. It is not a direct impact, but it is close enough. The entire helicopter slams sideways as if struck by a massive fist against the tail boom. Warning lights flare across the panel. One caution flashes, then another. The aircraft yaws for an instant before Reeves drags it back under control. Damage. We took something. Mercer's eyes jump over the instruments, then back outside. Hydraulics still answering, engines still pulling, rotor still holding. The Apache is wounded, but it is still in the air. Behind them, one drone burns on the water. Ahead, 3 more are still in the fight. And in the cockpit, both men reach the same conclusion at the same instant. This is no longer about avoiding contact. It is about staying alive long enough for support to close in. At 5:15 local time, the distress call reaches the nearest U.S. warship in broken pieces. Not because the Apache crew is unclear, but because too much is happening at once. Inside the Combat Information Center, the voices stay calm, low, exact. Radar scopes glow in the dim light. Surface tracks move steadily across the displays. Merchant traffic fills the channel in dense patterns. Then one watchstander isolates the transmission on the tactical net. Broken phrases, clipped coordinates, altitude, heading, damage report, Apache engaged, multiple hostile drones, 3 remaining. The room changes instantly, not in volume, but in concentration. A radar operator leans closer and refines the filter for low, fast air contacts over the water. Another pulls up the helicopter's recent track history. A third aligns the sensor picture with the Apache's last reported vector. What looked like clutter a moment ago starts separating into intent. Small returns, hard to hold, moving too fast and too directly to ignore. Possible low flyers bearing 340. Correlate with airborne call. Correlated. The tactical action officer wastes no time. Mark hostile pending visual confirmation. Support the helicopter. Out over the strait, the Apache remains low, damaged, and still under pressure. Captain Reeves keeps the aircraft in a shallow right bank, preserving speed while preventing the drones from settling into a clean lane behind him. Every vibration running through the airframe now feels sharper than before. The earlier blast has changed the helicopter's feel. Nothing catastrophic yet, but neither man confuses survival with stability. Mercer drags the sensor back along the waterline. Rear contact still there. High contact offset left. Lost third. He finds it again almost immediately. Low and wide, staying outside the helicopter's best gun arc until the last possible moment. The drones are no longer rushing. They are adjusting, and that makes the next minute worse. On the warship, the picture tightens. A mast-mounted sensor starts feeding a cleaner track on one of the drones. The operations team overlays heading, speed, and likely intercept windows. Another ship farther out acknowledges the report and turns its own sensors toward the channel. The network is taking shape now. Not one platform reacting alone, but several U.S. assets building a single, shared battlespace picture in real time. That is the moment the Apache stops being just one helicopter in trouble. It becomes the center of a wider American response. Helicopter, this is Warship 01. The radio call comes through calm and clipped. We have your track. Continue heading 085. Say damage status. Reeves answers without looking down. Controllable. Still engaged. 3 drones remaining. Inside the CIC, that is exactly what the watch team needs to hear. The aircraft is still maneuvering, still armed, still capable of following direction. That means the fight can be shaped. One fire control operator sharpens the nearest air track. Another shifts electro-optical coverage toward the sector where one drone had been holding high. A quick conclusion starts to form. One of the surviving drones may be acting as a spotter or relay, staying outside the Apache's immediate reach while feeding position updates to the others. That matters, because a guiding drone is also a pattern waiting to be read. High contact loitering. Possible controller assist. Copy. Hold him. Back in the Apache, Mercer hears the ship again. Stand by for advisory. You have one contact 6 o'clock low, one 10 o'clock high, one wide port. For the first time since the attack started, the crew is no longer fighting blind. Reeves nudges the helicopter 2 degrees right, using the ship's call to narrow the rear drone's approach. Mercer swings the sensor left and picks up the wide port contact, climbing slightly before curving back in. It is setting up another crossing run. Visual port contact reacquired. He brings the gun over and waits. The Apache cannot afford to waste ammunition tearing up empty water. Every burst has to matter. The rear drone commits first, choosing the simplest geometry available. A direct chase against a damaged helicopter with almost no room to climb. Reeves does not break early. He holds steady longer than instinct would allow, trusting the warship's larger picture. Mercer keeps the target centered, jaw tight, breath locked, letting the drone fill the sight. Now! Reeves snaps the helicopter left. Mercer fires. The burst rips backward through the air as the drone crosses into the stream. For a split second, nothing changes. Then the target shudders, rolls hard, and smashes into the water in a spray of shattered composite and flame. Splash 1. No one celebrates. The remaining 2 react immediately. The high drone drops lower, perhaps sensing the fight is slipping away if it stays only an observer. The portside drone tightens its turn and accelerates. For a few seconds, both are converging from different altitudes and different bearings, forcing the Apache into another split defense problem. In the CIC, the radar picture updates again. A signals operator catches a directional electronic trace tied to the area where the drones first emerged. It is not a confirmed launch site yet, but it is enough to point towards something more dangerous than a single target. A source, a likely control corridor. The tactical action officer sees the implication right away. Whoever sent the swarm has started leaving fingerprints across the spectrum. Maintain support to Apache. Continue building origin track out over Hormuz. Reeves feels the aircraft settle for half a second after the kill. Mercer is already hunting the next contact. The helicopter is still damaged. The sea is still tight beneath them. The attack is still underway, but the balance has shifted. The drones came for one aircraft. Now they are being watched by the full American system around it. Mercer zooms in on the lower of the 2 remaining contacts. The image sharpens just enough to show the drone angling in for another deadly pass. He steadies the sight and speaks into the intercom without emotion. 2 left. Then the warship cuts back over the radio, its voice colder than before. Apache, stand by. Weapons free if clear. By 5:17 local time, the airspace over the strait has turned into a trap. Not for the Apache, for the drones. Captain Reeves senses the shift before he says anything. The geometry is changing. For the first time since the attack began, the helicopter is no longer reacting a second behind every incoming threat. The ship's callouts are sharpening the picture. The drone tracks are no longer just flashes of motion followed by instinctive, evasive moves. They are becoming something else now. Measured, readable, predictable. That does not make them less dangerous. It makes the next few seconds decisive. Low contact closing, Chief Warrant Officer Mercer says, his voice clipped behind the oxygen mask. High contact holding offset. 2 drones remain. One is aggressive, fully committed, still trying to finish what the swarm started. The other is controlled, patient, almost surgical in the way it hangs back and waits for the helicopter to expose even the smallest weakness. Reeves keeps the Apache low over the water, nose slightly down, speed high enough to preserve maneuver authority, altitude low enough to stay buried in the glare and clutter of the sea. Off the right front quarter, a merchant ship begins to loom larger. Its steel hull turns part of the channel into a moving wall. Beyond it, heat haze and pale morning light flatten the distance and make everything harder to read. The low drone moves first. It charges in from the Apache's 6 o'clock position, skimming just above the water with a straight-line discipline that leaves little doubt about its purpose. It is not testing. It is not distracting. It is coming in to finish the job. 6 low, fast, very fast. This time, Reeves does not break immediately. That is the key difference. Earlier, he had to maneuver the instant a threat appeared, giving up the initiative simply to stay airborne. Now he holds the line for a fraction longer, trusting the wider battlespace picture coming from the ship, trusting that someone else can see more than he can from inside a damaged cockpit only a few dozen feet above open water. The warship cuts in over the radio. Hold heading! Hold heading! Stand by! That order takes nerve because the drone is closing so quickly that it no longer exists, only on a display. It is visible now, a dark shape trembling above the waterline, growing larger by the second. Mercer has the gun aligned and ready, but the target is still outside the cleanest firing window. A bad shot will waste the chance. A bad break will expose the helicopter to the second drone, still hanging high and left. Stand by. Reeves holds. Every instinct in the cockpit is telling him to turn. The drone reaches the edge of dangerous proximity. Now. Reeves snaps the Apache into a hard right brake, the rotor disc tilting so sharply that the horizon slides sideways across the canopy. At that exact moment, Mercer fires. The M230 chain gun hammers beneath the nose, recoil punching through the airframe in short, brutal pulses. The burst slices across the drone's projected path, not where it was, but where it is about to be. That is the difference between panic and training. For one frozen beat, the drone stays intact. Then the rounds connect. The fuselage bursts apart in flame and fragments, and the drone comes apart over the water just behind the Apache's right side. Burning debris skips across the surface of the strait and disappears into the wake. One destroyed, Mercer says sharply. But the words barely land. The final drone is already moving. It has watched the entire exchange. It has waited for the helicopter to commit. Now it dives in, not from directly above, but from offset. Smart. It drops in from the port side on a descending angle, designed to force the Apache either down toward the waterline or up into a cleaner silhouette. Reeves catches only a flicker at first. Mercer sees the full picture a second later and feels his stomach tighten. This one's different. He is right. The last drone does not rush the strike. It shapes it. It holds just enough distance to deny an easy gun solution, while steadily draining away the Apache's options. Reeves can feel the earlier damage in every control input now. The helicopter still responds, but not perfectly, not cleanly. Time, fuel, and mechanical margin are all shrinking. The warship has the track, but the final exchange is happening too close, too low, and too fast for anyone aboard to guarantee a shot without risking the helicopter itself. The fight is folding inward again, back to the two men in the cockpit. Mercer drags the sensor across the drone's flight path. The image shudders with vibration, glare, and motion blur. The target vanishes, reappears, vanishes again. Reeves cuts left, then right, forcing the drone to commit to a lane instead of hovering outside the engagement zone. The ship's voice returns. Apache, maintain for 3 seconds. 3 seconds. In open sky, that is nothing. Here, it feels endless. Reeves locks his jaw and holds course. 1 second, the drone closes. 2 seconds. Warning tones pulse through the cockpit over the engine noise and rotor thunder. 3 seconds. Mercer sees the angle open. There, he fires. The first burst passes just behind the target. Too much lead, too much motion. He corrects instantly and fires again. This time, the rounds strike head-on. The drone breaks apart in midair at shockingly close range, bursting into a flash of orange-white light that floods the left side of the canopy. Fragments streak past the Apache. One piece clangs off the fuselage. Another spins harmlessly into the sea. The helicopter bucks in the disturbed air, then drives through it. Still flying, still level, still there. For a moment, the cockpit holds nothing but breathing. Then Mercer checks the sky again. Nothing behind them. Nothing above them. No more tracks. The radio comes back, calm and cold. Apache, threats appear neutralized. Reeves does not answer right away. He keeps both hands on the controls, eyes forward, making sure the helicopter truly belongs to him again before he gives those words any weight. Around them, the Strait of Hormuz feels strangely quiet. The merchant traffic is still moving. The sea is still shifting. The engines are still pounding. But the immediate violence ends so abruptly that it almost feels unreal. 4 drones came for one American helicopter. Now all 4 are gone. Mercer lowers the gun slightly and stares at the blank sensor feed where the last target had been only seconds earlier. Then another voice from the warship enters the net, more deliberate this time. We have probable launch origin. That changes everything. The Apache did not just make it through the engagement zone, it stayed in the fight long enough for the Navy to see where the attack may have started. By 5:21 local time, the first sign that the fight is truly over is not silence, it is breathing. Inside the cockpit of the AH-64 Apache, the engine noise remains constant. The rotors still beat the air into a hard mechanical rhythm. The warning panel is still alive with caution lights that were not there 10 minutes earlier. The helicopter is still flying. By itself, that already feels unlikely enough. Captain Reeves keeps both hands steady on the controls and does not relax. Not yet. A machine can survive a close engagement over open water and still fail on the way home. Chief Warrant Officer Mercer sweeps the sensor one more time across the pale sky and the shipping lane below. No fast movers, no low contacts, no fresh threat cues. Only merchant traffic, sea haze, and the long wake lines of ships pushing through the strait as if none of this ever happened. Sky's clean. Only then does Reeves answer the ship. Warship 01, Apache. Threats neutralized, aircraft damaged. Request immediate recovery vector. The reply comes back at once. Apache, recovery vector follows. Maintain current heading for 30 seconds, then come right to 095. You are clear. Repeat, you are clear. It is the first line either man has heard all morning that contains any space to breathe, but relief does not enter the cockpit the way fear did. Fear arrived instantly, sharp and total. Relief comes in slowly, cautiously, as systems are checked and then checked again. Mercer scans the damage cues. One caution remains steady, another flickers, then disappears. Flight controls are still responding. Engine performance remains stable. Rotor RPM is holding. The tail clearly took stress, whether from fragments or blast effect, but the aircraft is still answering the pilot. Even so, Reeves does not trust the helicopter yet. He respects it. That is different. Below them, the Strait of Hormuz stretches ahead in layers of steel gray traffic and dark blue water. A tanker moves broadside through the channel, vast and indifferent. Farther off, the U.S. warship that assembled the air picture now sits like a fixed point of gravity in the middle of a widening American response. Sensor masts are turned, radars are active, watches are elevated. What began as one helicopter under attack has become something larger. Because now the Navy is not just looking at the fight, it is looking through it. Inside the Combat Information Center, the engagement is already being rebuilt in real time. Track histories are locked in. Altitudes, headings, timing gaps, approach arcs, and likely command link intervals are layered across the map of the strait. The first drone came in low, the second descended from above. One stayed back long enough to shape the geometry. Another lingered farther out as if relaying. None of that looks random now. Not anymore. The tactical picture has moved beyond survival and into attribution. A signals operator isolates a cluster of emissions tied to the period just before the first intercept. Another analyst matches the drone tracks to a narrow corridor extending back toward the Iranian side of the waterway. It is not courtroom-proof. In combat, it does not have to be. Patterns matter, timing matters, origin matters, and the attackers have left all three. We have a probable launch corridor, one watchstander reports. Refine it, the tactical action officer replies. No assumptions. Build the chain. That is how the U.S. Navy answers a swarm attack. Not with noise, with clarity. Back in the Apache, Mercer finally looks away from the sensor and down toward the cockpit floor, where the vibration has changed just enough for him to realize how tired his legs have become. His gloves are dark with sweat. His jaw aches from staying clenched too long. He glances out past the canopy and sees black scoring along the fuselage skin, small marks from fragments that came close enough to matter, close enough to imagine the other outcome. He says nothing. Neither does Reeves. There is nothing useful to say yet. The helicopter turns toward recovery. The sea opens slightly ahead. The warship's vector is precise, guiding the damaged Apache along the safest available path. Another American aircraft is now overhead at distance, not because the fight is still active, but because once a swarm attack reveals itself, no one assumes that was the only move planned for the morning. The Apache descends gradually, carefully. No theatrics, no dramatic flourish, just procedure. That is what makes it feel real. When the landing finally comes, it is firmer than usual, but controlled. Wheels touch, weight settles, rotor wash blasts outward across the deck. Ground crew move immediately, fast and disciplined, but no one rushes blindly toward a combat aircraft that has just come out of an engagement. The engines wind down in stages, the blades lose speed, the cockpit opens. Only then do Reeves and Mercer step out. They do not climb down like victors, they step down like men who know exactly how close this came. Maintenance crews are already moving around the helicopter, checking tail surfaces, fuselage scoring, sensor housing damage, and the aft quarter sections where the nearest blast may have marked the aircraft. Every scar tells part of the story. Composite scratches, fragment pitting, heat discoloration. Nothing dramatic enough for a headline, more than enough for a debrief. Inside the ship, the operational meaning of the encounter is settling into place. 4 hostile drones destroyed. 1 American helicopter damaged but recovered. Crew alive. Sensor records intact. Radio logs preserved. Electronic traces captured. A probable origin corridor established. What the attackers meant to be a fast takedown over a narrow waterway has instead exposed their methods, timing, and likely launch logic to a force built to study exactly that. And that is the part they did not plan for. They planned the attack, they did not plan the survival, they did not plan the data trail, they did not plan for a damaged American aircraft to stay in the fight just long enough for the entire system around it to wake up and start seeing. By the time the sun climbs higher over Hormuz, the water looks calm again. Merchant ships continue on their way. The radios sound ordinary. The helicopter sits on deck, scarred but intact. And somewhere beyond the visible horizon, the people who launched those drones are left with a harder truth than the one they started with. They did not bring down the Apache. They showed the Navy exactly where to look.